Trust. The film starts as America's sweetheart, Lauren Lane. Once the lovable star of a hit family sitcom reminiscent of Full House, Lauren has grown up in the public eye, beloved by fans as a sister or first crush figure. Her wholesome image is shattered when a hacking scandal leaks private photos, including a positive pregnancy test, sparking nationwide gossip over the identity of her unborn child's father. To escape the media circus, Lauren flees Hollywood, booking a secluded Airbnb where she hopes to go off the grid with her loyal dog, Georgie. Lauren felt at peace after she arrived at the Airbnb. She knew she had a lot to deal with, but for the moment, she intended on relaxing before she made any drastic decisions. She received a call from Peter Johnson, the face of the sitcom Lauren starred in. He'd played Lauren's father. Over the years, Lauren had fallen in love with Peter, and we discovered that he was the father of the child she was carrying. When the picture of the positive pregnancy test started to circulate on the internet, Peter figured that he was the father, and he was afraid that he would end up in a conflicting situation if she chose to keep the baby. He convinced her to abort the child, and he agreed to pay any amount to get it done in complete privacy. Lauren was heartbroken. He didn't ask her what she wanted to do, and it was obvious that he had no intention of building a life with her. He was already married and had children, and he didn't plan on leaving everything for Lauren. Peter wanted to maintain the image of the harmless family guy, but if the world discovered that he was in a relationship with the young actress who played the role of his daughter, he knew he would face immense backlash. He warned Lauren to not pin the blame on him, but she couldn't care less and disconnected the call. Lauren was trying to catch some sleep when she heard muffled voices, and her dog ran to the entrance door. She noticed two men trying to break in, so she locked herself in the boiler room. Merg and Darren searched for valuables around the house, and Lauren assumed that if she willingly handed them her belongings, they might leave the property sooner. But the moment she tried to communicate from behind the door, they freaked out. They wondered if she would inform the police, and they weren't sure if they could trust her. Darren's nephew, Marcus, was the manager of the Airbnb, and he'd fitted hidden cameras all around the house to keep a watch on the guests. Darren and Merg had every intention of robbing the Airbnb guests, but Marcus made it very clear that it was off limits because that was his only source of income. But when Marcus fell asleep, Darren checked his phone and figured that there was a guest at the cabin, and he decided to rob her. When Marcus woke up, he noticed that his phone was gone and Darren and Merg had taken off. He realized they'd gone to the cabin. When Marcus reached the Airbnb, he begged Darren and Merg to leave. He told them that she was a famous actor and they shouldn't mess with her. Merg blamed Darren for messing things up, and they got into a heated argument. Lauren had locked herself in the boiler room, and she couldn't open the door by herself anymore. She begged them to take whatever they wanted, and in return, she hoped they would let her go. Merg decided to break down the door, while Darren and Marcus tried to stop him. In the process, Merg mistakenly pulled the trigger, and Marcus was shot. Even though Marcus begged his uncle to save him, Darren asked Merg to do what was needed. Since they couldn't risk going to a hospital, Merg shot Marcus in the head. They left the cabin to get cleaning supplies, and Lauren was stuck in the boiler room the entire night. She was thirsty, tired, and just terrified. When she heard the men return, she begged them to let her go. She promised she would come up with a convincing story that would justify Marcus's death, and she believed that her influential connections could help her fix the problem. Darren considered helping Lauren, and while he tried to break open the door, Merg decided to shoot at it. In the process, he ended up mistakenly shooting Darren, and one of the bullets that ricocheted ended up killing Merg. Now Darren had two bodies to dispose of, and Lauren promised to help him if he let her out. Darren was badly wounded, so he didn't have any choice but to go to a hospital. He tried to explain that there was a girl stuck in a boiler room, but his speech was unclear, so the doctors didn't really understand what he was trying to say. Peter Johnson freaked out after Lauren disconnected the call when he asked her to get an abortion. Peter's security head, Croft, suggested getting rid of Lauren altogether. He believed that if they could sell a good story, people wouldn't be suspicious of her death. The plan was to tell the world that after her pictures went viral, she retreated to a remote location, got high on drugs and alcohol, and overdosed. This wouldn't be the first time a young actor died of an alleged overdose, and the story was sellable. Peter decided to have Croft kill Lauren, though he had no idea where Lauren was. When the men broke into the cabin, Lauren's dog, Georgie, had escaped. She was injured, and a dog rescuer, Loretta, found her on the streets. She got her to a vet to get checked and decided to upload a picture of her. The post instantly became viral, and Loretta discovered that she was Lauren's dog. She tried to contact the actor, but Lauren couldn't respond. Croft called Loretta and tried to find out where she'd found Georgie. She soon figured out that the man had an ulterior motive when he mentioned that he knew where she worked and offered to pay her for more information. Loretta ultimately disconnected the call. Croft ended up going to the clinic where Georgie was being treated. The location had become public knowledge by then. He offered the vet some extra cash and asked him to tip him off if Loretta stopped by the clinic. He needed to know where Lauren was, and he had a feeling Loretta could help him with that. The vet contacted Loretta and asked her to keep Georgie with her for the night. Keeping her at the clinic had become quite a task, and Loretta agreed to foster her for the time being. Croft had been waiting outside the clinic in his car, and when he noticed Loretta was leaving with Georgie, he followed her. Georgie started barking when they drove by the cabin, so Loretta stopped the car. The dog jumped out of the car and speedily ran to the cabin. Loretta couldn't figure out what was going on, and she got all the more confused when he noticed the two dead bodies inside the cabin. It had been 2 days since Lauren had been stuck in the boiler room. She was hot and thirsty, and she could feel that her body was giving up. She fell asleep, tired, and woke up to the squeaking noise of a rat. Lauren wanted to give up, but she realized she had to fight for the sake of her unborn child. All of a sudden, she discovered an iron rod, and she used it to kill the rat. She later tried to break through the wall, but it instead cracked a pipe, and the room started to rapidly fill up with water. While she was no longer thirsty, she now had to worry about not drowning to death. There was a loose wire hanging on the wall, and if the water level reached high enough to touch it, Lauren would die of electrocution. She realized that instead of aimlessly breaking walls, she needed to come up with a strategy. She decided to unscrew the nails on the door hinge. While she was busy doing so, Georgie had already entered the cabin. Loretta was lurking outside when all of a sudden, a man in hospital clothes grabbed hold of her. As it turned out, Darren had managed to escape from the hospital, and he'd returned to the scene of the crime. But before he could do anything to fix the situation, he noticed Loretta, and he decided to deal with her first. Croft too arrived at the cabin, and he shot Darren before the man even got the chance to explain himself. Croft lied about being Lauren's personal security to win Loretta's trust. When he realized that Lauren was stuck in the boiler room, he was overjoyed, because now he didn't even have to come up with a story. Loretta couldn't figure out why the man was not helping Lauren, but before things could get any worse, Lauren managed to break open the door. In the end, the door collapsed on Croft, and Lauren fell on him. When she regained consciousness, Loretta tried to explain that she'd squashed her security guard. Before Lauren could even process what Loretta had just said, Croft fired a shot. Loretta quietly waited for the right moment to strike Croft, and when she did, she ended up killing him. Meanwhile, the cops arrived at the cabin immediately after Lauren butchered Croft to death. They had been trying to decode what Darren had said when he arrived at the hospital. The title of the film addresses the idea of trust. The people Lauren had known her entire life, her mother and Peter, betrayed her trust the minute things went wrong, while a random stranger, Loretta, came to her rescue and tried to be there for her, even though she didn't really have to. Immediately after she was brought out of the cabin, she posted a picture of the positive pregnancy test and announced on her social media that she was pregnant. She didn't care if she lost her career as a result or if the person she loved abandoned her. She wanted to live for herself and do what her heart desired. She felt a deep connection with her unborn child when she was locked in the boiler room, and she realized that the baby gave her a reason to want to live, and she was worth putting up a fight for. The cops investigated the case and discovered that Peter Johnson had hired a killer